Sorry, yes. So the health data we are going to use will be on the one side open data sources and open data available, and the registered users, we will have an advanced authentication and authorization mechanism to register to our platform. So this data will be not make publicly available to any third users or parties or anything else. And we'll make this clear. We are currently in the process of discussing the legal aspects of the pilot, which is, you are right, one of the most important ones. But yeah, technically this is possible. Talking from a societal perspective, this is difficult. Yes? We are using standard models, and also because we want to make use of open data sources available. So our platform will have open APIs so that we can also interconnect with other platforms. And regarding the scale of the data, we started at the beginning thinking of something really small, because the pilot should be actually a proof of concept and nothing more. But now that we are in discussion with the city of Cork, this has the potential to become something more bigger, because we are going to address real needs. Talking about data in general, data analytics we will have in the Capsella platform. We will be also using social media data, and we will perform sentiment analysis on social media data. And this part will also feed into the services we will offer to the cities. In this case, to Cork for the beginning, and maybe Milan will be the second one.
So let me start with the question about a business model. So we work with, as you correctly said, corporates, institution, university. We have three streams of revenues. The first one is let's say the annual license, which is a basic payment. The second source is about the support in terms of communication, launch. There are some companies that are more advanced, they don't need support, they actually prefer to run it internally. Some others, especially small, that actually need quite some effort, And then there is a third piece, which is about customization, which is the most important probably for us, because it's where we add real value, because being a startup, we are quite flexible. We found some companies require integration with their shuttle service. We found, very specific requests, and of course that's the point where we add more value. While going to your point, I feel we do not compete at all with BlaBlaCar. We're both totally sharing. We're very different, and I would say two elements are what make the difference. The first one is community versus open. BlaBlaCar is totally open, so they help you trusting because they have a feedback system in place. But still, you have to trust to go with anybody. our model is basically made of silos. Each community, which might not be a single corporate. I mean, we have multiple corporates that maybe are small and they created a network, but then they can only share ride within this network. So, and that's for us, you know, being as I said, a women-based company, it was our, you know, important, let's say, thought at the very beginning. We really need to make it safe. And then there is another thing that is quite different with BlaBlaCar. BlaBlaCar is typically for long distance. Roma, Milan is the typical, you know. This is a short distance urban type of carpooling. Yep.
Yeah, but maybe I miss.
Let's collect all the questions. Sure. Social is one of the benefits I feel. I think if I correctly understood your question is about what is a social network. What is the implication of social network? Every time we talk to corporates, they actually feel that people do not talk enough to each other. This is a typical boss, point is why you guys don't talk to each other. That's what typically my CEO tells me in my telco, company. If you put them in the car in the morning, 30 minutes, they have a lot of time to, talk, spend together, and that's one of the implications and one of the benefits. Sure. You don't have to accept forcibly. I mean, no.
I see some people even the structure going on the company.
I mean, so far, every time we I feel that you probably are right. Probably there are some unwritten rules. Probably you don't ask a rider to your boss if you're not in a good, relationship with your boss. So probably the systems. I mean. Exactly. Probably the system is self-adjusting. But
maybe I missaid things. So we are not trying to put all initiatives in Europe on one platform. What we are actually trying to do is to just look what our platform and our models can do, and where can you, with the other existing platforms, find some synergies, maybe operational-wise. So, for example, Olio. Because we think if you look for citizens, for a citizen, it actually doesn't matter maybe the offer of the service, but it's important that he can help reducing food waste or help feeding people in need. And so Olio then can be for us a way to spread our message, and vice versa. If we have people, we can inform about Olio. So that, because we believe that, we just make a pilot around around 2 or 3 use cases. But if you want to tackle food surplus and food redistribution, it's a collective effort of everybody in the whole chain, actually. And so that's why we like to connect them. Yeah. So it's more about collaboration than being on one platform. So I missaid it for you.
So I understand all the time. It sounds like all your projects is one project that is also in area, but similarly you do something differently. And what is that? Is your build the data cost? What is it also different culture? Because ultimately, I have a lot of stuff in my creation. I work for the Social Data Foundation, but it's rare that I go on and post stuff on Audio, simply because it's not part of my everyday routine. So I'm kind of curious about all of your projects. How do you address that? The biggest challenge is kind of culture and behavior, or what you don't do the time. What about it?
Actually, you returned the questions I had in my last slide in the presentation. I was hoping to discuss this with some people today. Sorry. Yes. Let me start by saying that we don't believe that once we have a super functional ICT platform with wonderful applications and interfaces and everything, we will convince farmers to use this platform and to share data and to put some more ICT in their farms. So what we realized in this 1 year the project is running is that you have to very carefully listening to what the communities are saying to you, and if they don't want any other ICT tools, you shouldn't offer any additional ICT tools, or you shouldn't try to develop things that you have in mind if they don't really address the needs they have. We have a particular example of this. We started with a seeds network in Italy, and we realized that what we had in mind to offer to this seed network was above their expectations and above the things they would really would use. So we are currently restructuring the whole thing, and we are changing the ICT development part in order to really meet the needs that these networks have. And also, you cannot do everything through ICT. This is another thing. You cannot replace the human contact. If you don't go to the farmers, if you don't go to the field to discuss with them, you cannot really engage them and you cannot really attract them. The first workshop we organized as Capsella, it was organized on a field, so that we allow also farmers from Tuscany and from the region around this field to participate.
Yeah, so I'm just closer. Yeah, so of course, when we designed the platform, we already worked it together out with the communities that are in. So they already have a user base, but we also ran a survey via our pilot partners along groups that they actually already reached in order to identify what their barriers are. So just practically, but also what's the level of their knowledge and of their motivation. So we will actually try to work in 3 steps. So so when it will be launched at the end of this month, we first will focus on those people already connected to these organizations and communication, address what from the surveys came out as their main barriers, and try to highlight the benefits of the platform, and then try to increase slowly in the communities. Secondly, as you said, we also work a lot offline. So the platform is just a tool to make something happen. If it can go offline as well, fine for us. But we also will have awareness-raising events. We have what we call ambassadors. So we'll appoint people in communities that can actually go around and look for places where there is maybe some food surplus, or for communities that can be interested in what we are doing. Because also from the experience of a lot of our 4 pilot communities, actually, it came out that a lot of people are interested. They sometimes come, but it's, for example, time constraints, and then they want to do other activities. So what we also offer is that people just can signal us notify us very fast about what they see as a kind of place where there might be food surplus. So we have a whole range there. And also then, so we put the human factor and the offline human factor also central in our behavioral change campaign. So by ambassadors, by pledges.
Yeah, no, I mean, I feel, as probably they already said, is the platform is just the enabler. It's all about a cultural and a mindset shift. The 2 points I was making at the end, awareness and incentive, is what I believe is truly needed. In order to stop or start a new behavior, you need to have a right incentive, which could be either that it's really difficult to keep doing in the old way, which applying to my example, maybe a company moved to a new location where there are no parking spots, and therefore you are really forced to reduce the number of cars going there. Or you need to have good incentive and good reward to change your habit. For sure, I mean, you need to know that that is available, but you really need to be pushed. And then there is a third element kicking in. It needs to be simple, because we are always in rush. If it's not something easy, we just take it out and we don't use it anymore. So I think those are all the pieces needed, and every time we start with a new project, with a new company, this is the big challenge, honestly. So totally agree with you.
Fine if you haven't, but I'm wondering, it feels like we have all these services which are around exchanges, talking about non-financial exchanges. How do we then get to the level of having an actual marketplace where that can operate at scale? Is that something you thought about in your project? Does it make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think absolutely makes sense. I think we go to some ancient rule of economic. I mean, before money, probably we tend to exchange, type of things. So I think we're going back there. Probably the execution is not that, simple, because I'm just really thinking loud now how to apply it. If we would launch on a community that is now willing to provide the reward, then probably this one could be a solution, to exchange ride for something else, because at least our philosophy for our startup is not to go with the economic compensation, because otherwise it kind of changes the, let's say, the mood and the basic spirit. But yeah, that's a very fair point.
Yeah, well, actually, we are really going to not go economically. I mean, you really do it because for the good, so to speak. But of course, we have some kind of a reward system in our platform. So we will give badges, and you can also constantly see if you are a donor, how much actually you gave, to whom it was going, and what actually impact it had. So that's kind of an incentive. But it's not that we have saying that if you give us 10,000 kilos of this, for example, you will get that in return. No. It was also the philosophy of our partners that are doing these initiatives on the ground. So, yeah.
And for us, the emphasis was on open data, so we haven't thought about it until we started dealing with the cities, as I said. And we were forced to think about potential business models for the things that we do. We haven't thought about this sharing model and this new economy of not using money, but for the particular case, for example, of the pilot with the public school food, we could consider this, although there is this public dimension. If there are municipalities involved, I don't know to which extent you can say you can have time bankings or anything like that involved as a business model. If it is communities or individuals, this is certainly much easier. But dealing with cities or municipalities, I think this is more difficult.
You mentioned the first presentation on sharing code. Is that right? You know, and this idea that, you know, how do you get more sharing within the local community? Surely has to be around all different things that you should do. I'm just trying to think of how can we kind of connect all these different things and make the data consumption on this part. I don't know, is anyone else in the room? What's that marketplace? With bringing that from innovation? No? I think that's a big challenge for us going forward. Any other questions? I have one final question. I think there's a lot of projects that we've heard about today, the capture projects and other kind of call for digital conservation, kind of talks about open data something and that's something. And I think maybe the European as well, I think sometimes there is a bit of a misconception around how much of the data is out there, how much data there is, and the quality of it. So I guess in your project, what is your experience been around kind of your expectations around the data, and then the actual quality of the data that you could get to? Because I think there is something we need to address there, maybe around what you can expect from data-driven projects.
This is a real problem, and this is actually something we dealt in the first year of the project a lot, and we discussed a lot. One thing was, as I said, how to convince people to open the data, and the second thing is how useful are the open data sources that are available and how open they are. And I have to say that even for data coming from the Commission or from EU-funded efforts that participate, for example, to open research data pilot or things like that, and are obliged to have the data openly available, this is not the case, or this is only partially the case. And most of the data, the nutritional data we found, for example, they are from the US. And so the data, the European data available, are not to be compared with the US data in the field. I think this is something that will change in the next years, not only because of the things that are happening in US right now, but also because of the change of them in the mentality of the people in Europe. And we really hope that also through events like this, we share also more between the projects and between us, because this is for me a real need. What we are developing, we are a 2.5 years project. I don't want to see it disappear. I will be very happy if somebody else takes our code, takes our data, and enriches this data or adds additional functionalities to them. We will be more than happy, and this is also one of our scopes and one of our targets.
May I actually ask a question? It's a question for the audience. So it's a question that I typically do when I have more than 2 people in front of me. How many of you think that the difference between car sharing and carpooling is very clear? One is clear. Yeah. Not all of you. So, and I'd like to talk about that just 1 second. So car sharing is the sharing of vehicles. There is one car that is made available from a corporate, typically. A large corporate to put available a bunch of car. You can take the car when you need and then you return it. Carpooling is actually when you travel together. And of course, both of them are a very good benefit. Of course, in one case, you just reduce the number of cars just parking on the street. In the second case, you reduce the CO2 emission because you travel together, you reduce the number of rides. I just care about this point.
This is good. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the final exercise. Let's say any final questions for the panelists. One more. Take my chair, that's one thing. The other thing I do is that there's the idea to develop a sort of manifesto, or let's call that a wish list for DSI and the UK agenda for DSI Europe. So on that list, we have to put kind of what is it we really want the Commission to do in this space to advance the agenda. So I thought we can do this two ways. Choose either it can be a big question you want answered. So you really think we should do an experiment, a pilot, a research project on this big question, or it can be a call to action. So I want all data in this place to be open in this particular way, or I want 10 million to go to carbon. Whatever it is. So you have 2 minutes to think about it. 30 minutes. Think about what you want. So we're going to run through the list here, ask you, and then you add kind of a wish list for that to go on. And just point that out to the data. 2 minutes of quiet reflection on your wish list for what you want from the manifesto. And that be quiet.
Yeah, the 2 minutes didn't help. I'm less confident.
Alright, so fire away.
No, a slightly funny thing, but I have two small things. A slightly funny thing, but a probably maybe valuable thing would be, I think actually understanding how to quantify value that's created in these organisations and start to align that with incentives for both the organisations and perhaps even start to measure economic impact, whether it's tax breaks for the employers or I see a lot of money wasted. People paying tax for one project that pay tax. That's just one random thing. The other thing is just effectively there's a really good thing brought up, which is microphone. There was another really important thread which came at the end, which was around marketplace for social aspects versus economic marketplaces and incentives. And I think that everyone lives in economic realities, and it's very important to consider the economics of the marketplace that you're dealing with. And I think like you raised a good question, what's car sharing versus versus carpooling, and like these sort of questions are really important, like to work out how to communicate what it is you're offering, and understanding that it's filling a need, and then starting to consider the economics of it. I think basically if you can start to get to an understanding of how the social and the economics kind of come together, that would be a valuable addition to the manifesto. I'm not proposing how, but
So I understood this would be our request towards the Commission. Okay, I have a request towards the Commission in these 2 minutes. So the Commission is the biggest bureaucratic organization in Europe, and I have the feeling that they are building their open data policy in a very similar way. So I would expect that there is more transparency and more clarity in the way they want us to deal with open data and the way also the Commission deals with open data. So there is this very bureaucratic appearance. Also on the internet, if you search the Commission websites, it's pretty much impossible to find the information you are looking for. So you end up searching through Google, for example. So this is what I wanted to see from the Commission, more clarity and more transparency, and not changing guidelines, how to deal and how to work with open data.
I don't know the Commission anyway, because we didn't ask any fund to European Commission or similar, but the idea is to inspire a human-centered, technological and social approach to human life, and not only human beings and sentient living beings. And the idea is to use gamification. This is the main topic at the moment. We are very focused to use data, to use services and all this stuff in a way that can be thought as something that can be put the human being in the center for a healthy, happy and also joyful person. This is what I feel. And if we want to do a smart goal using a coaching approach, the idea could be to have at least 50 European cities that could be defined sharing cities by 2020.
Yeah, my point would, or my question, or my dream would actually be, so I see a lot of projects on smart cities, which are actually with the big industry. And now you have this idea of large-scale testing. When I hear a concept of the sharing city, I see all these initiatives together. Actually, I think we have a lot of common problematics. Maybe we're working different domains, but I think deep down there, we have the same challenges, maybe the same questions. And I think there should be just something maybe like a large-scale platform testing developing thing for all these kind of initiatives we are here developing in Europe, so that we can actually learn from each other, but we can also find out and what can be easily transferred, because now we turn up into always these little projects with three or four actors, while you actually have 20 other actors in Europe. So it would be nice, maybe the topic for my project, to actually be able to work together with all the initiatives in Europe, or at least a larger share part.
Yeah, so dear Commission, so what probably I would suggest is to put in place the incentive scheme I was talking about before. So for instance, tax shield for corporate and potentially for institutions like university, maybe additional budget to support the carpooling adoption.
Well, maybe very practically on the ground, continuing funding cuts in the future, but to go to an upper level. I was feeling something very, very close to what Wim was mentioning. My impression is that there is a continuous silos approach in any case, a strong cleavage between what on one side we find the big, in terms of policy and programs, we find the big Horizon 2020 ICT projects and European investment banks funded projects with the big ICT players, all for deployment and this very much tech and business driven. And then we have nice communities and smaller communities like digital social innovation, where in a way there is far less investment from the Commission and definitely not enough integration with the other more tech-oriented side of the story. Yeah.
That's great. I'm going to add my question. So it's kind of a viewpoint. So a couple years ago we wrote a paper called Rethinking Smart Cities from the Ground Up. And it was based on all ideas saying, let's take away this idea that a smart city is what's defined by physical ideas and sort of control and mission for us. But actually also that's what we do every day in life, where actually have a smartphone to each other, how can we actually build all of our joint and that gives those tools to make it smart. And actually I think building on that,
20. Dopo si rilancia.